My name is Aaliyah McCord, and I'm the Associate Director of the African Studies program here. And we are thrilled to be back in person. And we are especially thrilled for today's presentation. I couldn't think of a better way to finish off the semester. So today, of course, we are joined by the famous Lusayo Mwakatika. He's probably no introduction for this crowd, but I will give one anyway. Lusayo is currently a business development officer with the CADES Malawi. This is work that he will be talking about today. He holds a degree in agribusiness management from our very own University of Wisconsin-Madison, of course. And he's the former president of Project Malawi. And I see Felice and Joel are here with Project Malawi in the back. So if anyone wants to learn about how to be involved in Project Malawi and continue the great work that Lusayo helped to sort of start here, I encourage you to talk to Felice and Joel. In addition, of course, to these roles, Lusayo was an intern in the African Studies program. This is, of course, I think the most important part of his resume. He worked with us from 2019 to 2020, and he made the coffee and did all sorts of stuff for us. You can see we're lost without him. We no longer have the capacity to make coffee without Lusayo. I'm just kidding. He also helped with our Mandela Washington Fellows program in summer of 2019, helping our fellows acclimate to life in Wisconsin. And we received so many positive things were said about Lusayo and his role. We're really thankful for that service. And when Lusayo came time for him to graduate, unlike most students who just graduate and leave, he was like already 10 steps ahead and thinking about making the next step. And so Lusayo applied for and received the extremely competitive Wisconsin Baldwin Idea Award to fund some of the work in Malawi that he's going to talk to us about today. And we're not surprised to see this kind of success from Lusayo. He is a member of the inaugural King Mortgage Scholar class that graduated last spring in 2021. This King Mortgage Scholar program, if you have questions about it, I see Marianne and Jason are here in the background. I'm sure they'd be happy to share more. This is a program that brings high achieving scholars from around the world, extremely internationally competitive scholarship that brings high achieving scholars here to study at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And Lusayo is evidence of the real value that they bring both to our campus and community and the wider world. So we're really proud of the work that Lusayo has done. We always joke with our interns that we will see them presenting in Africa at noon one day. Usually it takes 10 to 15 years for that to happen. So Lusayo has set a new record by being the youngest alum to ever present at Africa at noon. And we are really thrilled to have him today. I think
either way.
All right. Thank you, Aaliyah, for the wonderful introduction. I'm so happy to be here. I hope people in the back can hear me. You can hear me? All right, great. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's been quite a while getting back to Madison, and I was like, okay, let me go at least somewhere late April, so that there's like sun and everything, but now the coast still snuck up on me, and now I was like, okay, at least I'm still in Wisconsin, I know that. So, but thank you so much. Today I'm going to be talking about my work in Malawi. So when I was a student on campus, I was part of Project Malawi, and one of the things that we did with Project Malawi is that we're fundraising for an organization in Malawi that focuses on providing guidance for youth in agriculture in Malawi. So we're trying to get more young people into agriculture in Malawi. And so during my time at UW, I spent about 3 years of my time trying to fundraise and also just help out to the friends in Malawi. So when I was graduating, I was like, okay, I want to do something, continuing the work that I was doing, fundraising, or at least something to contribute to my community in Malawi. And when I was talking to my friend who is the CEO of the organization in Malawi, he was like, you know what, you can come and work with us. You've already been kind of fundraising for us, so we can come and and work together. And with your skills, we can definitely use them somehow here. So I was like, oh, great. I think I'm going to do that. So that's what I've been doing for the past year. I went home and I've been working with Kids Malawi, which is the organization that I've been working with. And before that, we applied for the project grant. Unfortunately, we were able to get it. So it has extremely helped to boost our work. And so I'll be talking more about it in our work today. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'll start the presentation. Yeah, so well, I wanted to talk more about our work and what we do, but I feel like it would make sense more to see like the background information about Malawi and just some statistics about Africa that kind of inform the way we do our work and the demographic that we chose to focus, because we focus on the youth in agriculture because of some of the statistics that we found out as well, but also because we are young people. So the African population growth rate is about 2.5 per year, as the World Bank reports. But in Malawi, we had a population census in 2018, and we found that about 18 million, we have about 18 million people. But the kind of interesting fact is that there is a projection that our population will grow by 35% in the next 5 years. So for us in agriculture, you know, that's something we had to sit down and reflect on, because population growth means more people that need to be fed. And a country whereby, you know, we're still already having some shortages on how to feed the current population, having a population grow by 35% in the next 5 years, that's something that we had to sit down and think deeply about. And the land holding size in Malawi right now is about 0.7 per hectare. And this is very important in Malawi because about 80% of our population relies on agriculture. So when you look at the population growing at 35% in the next 5 years, it means this land holding size is going to decrease, because the way you get land in Malawi is that, so if I have a family, I have 3 kids, I have maybe 5 hectares of land. When my children grow, I divide my piece of land to those children so that their families, they can also be having that. So as the population is growing, we know that the land holding size is also going to decrease. So that raises different questions now. You know, it raises questions about how is agriculture going to be done if this land, the plot of land that people are going to be farming on is decreasing now and then. And this is similar to a lot of different African countries as well. It not only applies to Malawi, like the land size is decreasing in most African countries. So when you look at agriculture feeding the population growth that's coming in the next 5 years, and the land size that each person can farm on is decreasing, what kind of farming are we looking at? What are the logistics we're looking about? What kinds of innovations do we need to make sure that people are utilizing this land as efficiently as possible? It also comes to questions of gender and because women are the most one active in agriculture, but when you look at the statistics, there are also the least people that are able to hold land, because most of our communities are patrilineal, so men usually are the ones that are holding land. So what does that, how does that affect those gender dynamics as well? So for us, you know, those are the questions that, you know, we've been trying to solve and think about. And during my presentation, I'm going to share with you how we've been able to approach some of those problems and also challenges that has been presented to us with these statistics that, you know, we've been able to find. But, you know, I'll also open it to the floor that, you know, these are also some of the questions. I know we're in different fields, in different work. I know quite a few of you here, like, you know, these are also areas in which you can be thinking about, questions you could be thinking about in your own field, like how can you also maybe help out or like see where you could fit in to help in solving some of these problems. All right, so I talked mostly about the population growth. So I want to look at the immediate effects of the population growth of Malawi. So we found that half of the Malawian population is youth. So the UN defines youth as people between the age of 10 to 35 years. And as I already said, the land holding size is decreasing in Malawi. So most youth have less and less amounts of land. So there will be a scramble for more land because people need like in a country whereby financial resources are kind of limited, natural resources are a little bit things that people try to hold on to. So land is something that most people want to have. So when you look at it getting smaller, it's going to be scramble for more land for sure. And those other dynamics that I talked about end up coming in. So you look at now having less land for production. So for us, when we looked at the population of Malawi being 10 to 35, we found out that this is the largest population dynamic for us to work with, because we find that about 40% of the Malawian economy comes from agriculture. So and we always say this as a joke, but like in 2016, the average farmer in Malawi was about 65 years old, and the life expectancy then was about 64 years old. And we always joke that the average farmer in Malawi by then was supposed to be dead 1 year, and according to the statistics. So you look at you look at the future of the country depending on agriculture. About 40% of the country relying on agriculture. Then you ask questions about how is it going to be sustainable going forward. So this is where for us it was very important to get more young people into agriculture, because we need to have new ideas, new innovation, and new creativity, but also just young, strong, energetic people that could be able to do the labor that comes with agriculture and move it forward, so that we're having a sustainable agriculture, at least economy going forward for a country, for our country. So these are some of the effects in which the population being largely youth is in Malawi, is that we have high levels of unemployment, just because most young people are graduating. Some of them don't have access to go to school, but at the same time, you find that there's high level of youth unemployment just because there isn't enough jobs for more young people. And you find that about 50% of the youth are informally unemployed and they need something to do. So if you look at this on another angle, you could see this as a challenge whereby, if you have a large amount of youth that have nothing to do, that could be even dangerous to a country. There will be a rise maybe in crime rates and issues of HIV and AIDS and issues that might arise due to having that. So for us, we need to find something for more young people to get engaged in and to be contributing positively to the development of the country and how the country is going to move forward. So that's what our work is also focusing on youth, because we want young people to find something to do, especially the youth in the rural areas whereby economic opportunities are very rare, and most of them find that the solution is maybe to move to the city and find a job in the city. But for us, we tell them like, no, you can stay in the village and use the land that you have and actually make more money than even some of the youth that are in the city. So this is why our work focuses on the youth, and this is why we feel like for us focusing on this is helping at least the country to give more youth something to do. So as I already said, some of the effects of the population that growth is that women are the ones that farm a lot, and for us it's a challenge that most of the women are not able to own land, because land is owned by inheritance, and usually most women fail to inherit land because it's the male children that are able to host to own land, as the inheritance goes in different parts of Africa, but in my country. So we see this as there's also even a need for more gender awareness and women empowerment campaigns specifically focusing in agriculture and land ownership and issues about farming and how do you balance the people that are actually doing the work to the person who owns the land and how that dynamics, because if someone is working on land that they do not own, what incentive do they have to take care of the land? Because they know that maybe if they work on improving the land, planting more trees, using organic manure, those are like long-term investments on land. So how can you do investments that will maybe pay off better in the next 5 years when you don't even own the land that you're using? So those are some of the dynamics that we've been thinking about actively as we're doing our work, because we feel like going forward in the future, those are the dynamics that we'll have to deal with as we're looking at climate change and interventions that could help in climate change by like planting trees, taking care of the soil to prevent erosion and all those kind of things. But if the people are telling to take care of the soil do not own the soil that they want to take care of, like what incentive do they have to actually take care of the soil? So these are even in agriculture for us, these are some of the issues that we've been thinking about and trying to figure out a way in which we can set a balance and help out in this case as well. So, as I talked about the youth, I'd like to introduce like Arcade's on how we're working on the youth. So I didn't put the numbers there, but Arcade's work, so far we have a membership of about 5,000 youth farmers. We have some of the youth have access. So in total, the amount of youth that have access to our program are about 10,000 youth. And so we are looking at expanding and growing more. So far, expanding for us is not a challenge. It's that because we have our model figured out, so we know what the youth has to go through once they join the program up to the end. But the only challenge now is the resources for us to be able to get the youth on board. So we are looking at growing in the next 3 years to having at least 30,000 youth in our program. So we are aiming big kind of in that area. So, but what we do now is we try to get more young people into agriculture by eliminating most of the barriers that young people face to get into agriculture. So one of the biggest barriers that youth face, and I'm going to talk more about it when I'm talking about the financing component in which I work actively on. But I think one of the biggest barriers for youth to get into agriculture is access to finance. So capital for them to even buy inputs, capital to buy equipment, and other things that they need for them to start into agriculture. Some of them face challenges of knowledge. I want to grow soybean, but I've never grown soybean in my life. I want to grow paprika, for example, but I've never grown paprika in my life. How do I go about it? Some of them also like business knowledge. How do I take farming as a business and not only as something that I do to sustain myself and as traditionally it has been. So for us, the last challenge is also markets, like what if I grow these kind of crops, where do I sell? Like, is there a market? And most of these young people live in rural areas where there is no access to market. So they don't have access to information where to sell their produce, where to get the best produce. So for us, we come in with a comprehensive approach to work with young people. So at first, we work with them to educate them to take farming as a business. We also provide production training. So whatever they want to produce, we also provide training for that. And then we also provide funding in form of inputs. So far, we are trying to formalize the funding component to a whole standalone microfinance where we can provide other services as well. But we provide inputs in form of loans, but also in other forms. So like we provide seeds, we provide manure and other kind that they need to do that. And then in the end, we also help in finding markets for them. So the way we've been able to operate so far, we're trying to formalize it now going forward, but the way we used to operate is that we're an association of young people. So what we do is once everyone produces, we put our produce together, and then we're able to find a market that's better for us, because most companies that buy from farmers, they want to buy in bulk, but an average youth farmer for us holds about 1 acre of land. So the produce that you can have for 1 acre of land, you can sell to a help big company that would want to transport a big transportation to come and get the things to your place and everything. So that when we consolidate with about 5,000 people together, that's about 5,000 acres worth of produce, and we're able to get a good price. We're able to bargain for like better arrangements in terms of like logistics. Companies are able to come find us instead of us transporting the produce to them, because they know that once they come to us, they have to have a large produce in that. So, we've been operating like this for quite a while. And so far with COVID, we realized that, we have to find a way to separate the kind of departments of our program and make them sustainable on their own going forward. So the training component, we're trying to make it a standalone department that is able to do trainings, and it can also be sustainable in a different way. The funding part, we're trying to make that into a microfinance, whereby apart from giving loans to our farmers, it's also able to give loans to other people that can be able to pay interest, and then we invest that back and increase the amount of loans that we're giving to the farmers. And then even in terms of the marketing, we were able to build a warehouse that is able to aggregate our produce together. But at the same time, also we're looking at building a processing plant that we don't have to be selling to the big companies. We can be processing some of the things ourselves and even give better prices to our farmers and doing that going forward. So we are trying to figure out a way to make sure that every component of our work is standalone and is also being sustainable on its own. Because now the way we've been able to expand is, we've had very generous donors and grants like the boarding grant that has helped us to push our work going forward. But with issues of COVID, that those challenges sometimes happen where the donors maybe that have been funding you decide to maybe focus on something. So we saw a lot of donors maybe changing into COVID-related issues that they could be able to fund. And we were in agriculture and we had to find a way to connect our work to agriculture or something. But we find that we're losing donors and then your work is being affected in that way. So that made us to think about how sustainable can we be on our own, so that if someone funds our work, it's just increasing on the effort of even making us more sustainable going forward. So I also talked about the issues that we're doing on gender. So that's what exactly the boarding grant that we did was on. And so there's a kind of like a funny story that is associated with this, because we wrote the grant and we're like, hey, we assessed in our groups and we're like, okay, we're going to implement it like this because of the needs that we've been able to do. And we're talking with one of the people that is helping us to implement the grant. And one of the questions they ask is like, okay, so you figured out how to work with the farmers in terms of increasing gender empowerment and gender awareness in the groups and making sure that the groups are gender balanced and you're reaching out to more women because we need more women to join your program. But how about you? How about the organization? Do you even have a gender policy? Like in your own, what do you do to make sure that even your team itself is gender balanced and you're doing that? So we had to actually sit down and be like, okay, we have this figured out, but now we have to first look inwardly and do a gender assessment on ourselves, because we were lucky that we had we had a gender balanced staff, but we're like, we don't even have a policy on this. What if one day we find all men or all women in our group and we can't even think about the dynamics that comes with to thinking with different genders? So for us, this was really important because it was an eye-opening for ourselves to come down and do a gender assessment of our organization and our team and come up with ways in which we can even be gender balanced, so that when our field officers are going there to train the gender trainings that we do and also enforce the gender dynamics that we have in the groups that we work with, they also have the knowledge that the workplace in which they are working in is also gender sensitive, and they are also aware of those issues. So that's something that really helped us to even take a closer look of how we work with that. But those are some of the issues that we were able to find even when we went to the community. We found small issues like meeting places, for example. For our farmers, they have to meet because they work in groups. And, we were asking questions like, is the places you meet conducive for women? So we found that, in the decision making, maybe men are making most of the decisions, and they're meeting at a school that is a little bit maybe far from the village, and men are able to access that area because they have bicycles, but women don't have bicycles, and now they don't have time to be able to come to that place. But at the same time, also you look at issues of some women have children, and during trainings, the children is to be tended to. So what can we do to make sure that at least maybe do we take one woman to like take care of all the kids so that the other women like focus on the trainings and everything. So it really informed us to realize some of the gaps that we had in our work, because at first it was just whoever is interested. So we got the youth, and whoever is interested can come and join our programming. But just having to look at those dynamics was really eye-opening to us in how we operate going forward. So that's kind of like the way in which we are trying to work on the gender issues that we're talking about, and even the gender awareness in terms of like land ownership. We're talking with the chiefs and everything, that we have youth in our program, we have women in our program as well. Like, what can we do to work together that these women also, they're working on the land in which they own themselves, because working on a land that is owned by someone else is a challenge for them going forward. So for the bordering grant, I think those are some of the major issues that we're trying to tackle going forward. Yeah, and in terms of the land holding size, for us, that's a very, very big factor that we're working on. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we're doing deeply. So, when the land holding size is decreasing, it needs, now for more creativity on our part, because you have to figure out how to produce more on a smaller piece of land. And obviously that involves taking care of the soil, but also is there small machinery that can be used for a smaller piece of land? Because you talk of bigger machines, sometimes they need at least bigger pieces of land, at least for them to make sense due to the cost and the amount of money it takes at least to purchase them and everything. So for us, these are the issues that we are trying to work with on the youth, but also at the same time, as the land holding size is decreasing, when you look at the marketing component now, how do you market when you're only producing on 1 acre of land? So that's a challenge. So how can you make sure that even though the land is becoming smaller, we are having more people aggregate at least their produce and being able to sell as they're growing on that smaller piece of land. So for us as arcades, we were able to work with our youth farmers and work with these dynamics, because we have our field officers in the community, and we're working in different 3 districts in Malawi right now. So we have some youth that have some intervention in this area, and we're trying to share those innovations in different areas as well, so that if some youth are able to produce more on this smaller piece of land because of the innovation that they have been able to come up with, we're able to scale that out in different parts as well. We've also introduced some products in our microfinance that would enable people to more produce on that, and I'm going to talk more about that because that's exactly the work that I do. So I'm very excited when I'll be talking about that. So as I said, the technology that we're looking at, the creativity and the trainings that we are trying to adapt now, it has to make sure that people are producing more on a smaller piece of land, and as the population is growing, more and more people are learning more about how they can take advantage of that. So that's just one of the pictures for some of the trainings that we do, and some of these are like our field officers giving trainings to some of the farmers. In terms of transportation, so we've been able to get this fund to be able to get to the rural youth in the rural areas, because as we're aggregating our crops, most of the youth live in rural areas where like traditional cars are not able to reach. So for them to even hire something to be able to go there and get the produce, it's a definitely big issue. So this helps us to be able to go and aggregate the produce pretty well in those areas. And then the warehouse is talking about, that's the warehouse that we've been able to build. So we're able to build this because we got a grant from the World Bank through the Malawi government. So we've been able to do this, and this will help out youth because it can hold at least about 600 tons of produce. So that's quite a big volumes for our youth, and because in the past, the biggest challenge why we needed a warehouse is that when the harvest time is there, there's a lot of produce on the market. And then, so for us, we're forced to sell, because if you keep it in your own houses to sell at a later time, you have people stealing from you. But also if you rent a warehouse, that increases the cost because we have about 40% of our cost actually is coming from storage costs if we end up storing. So for example, last year, I'll just say this in like Malawi and Kwacha. So last year in May, which was the harvest time, soybean was at 400 kwacha. So, and then when you just kept your produce for like 2 months, in July, the same soybean was at 800 kwacha. So the price doubled in a month, in a time of like 2 months. So if you had sold just earlier, you lost out on that margin that you've been able to sell. So for us, that was a big challenge because we're losing that margin that our farmers could actually be getting more. But at the same time, if we choose to keep, we incur a lot of costs just renting a warehouse and being able to do that. So this is really going to be something that will change the way our work is going to be carried out, and also make the work more profitable for our farmers going forward. So this is mostly the part that I work on. So I was just searching up some statistics even on Africa, is that 22% of African companies actually have access to finance. So like are using some kind of like finance to be able to do. So these are like big companies, and then about 57% people in the whole of Africa are unbanked. And then at the same time in Malawi, only 3% of commercial lending goes to agriculture. So, and that goes to like large farms, big farms that are able to pay collateral and do that. But when you look at an individual youth farmer, it's nearly impossible to get a loan at a bank, because first, as a youth farmer, you get 3 constraints to get a loan to a bank. Firstly, you're young, and you don't have a proper track record for the bank to trust to be able to give you money. You don't have collateral, and then you're also entering into agriculture, which is considered the most risky sector for banks to be able to invest money in. So you're having 3 barriers before you even enter the door to ask for a loan from a bank. So it's nearly impossible for especially rural farmers to even get a loan from a bank. So this is where we came up with the idea of providing financing to our youth farmers, because we realized that for us, at first the idea was, okay, maybe we work with banks so that they give loans to youth and they're able to get into agriculture, but we found that that was an impossible task. So at first we're even using our own money to be able to do, and we found some donors that have been able to boost up the capital, but now we want to even formalize that by just having a normal microfinance that will be focusing on the youth and agriculture. On providing loans there, because we have experience in that area and we know how at least to work with the youth farmers, mostly because if the youth have gone through our system and we know them for quite a long time, we'll be able to grow with them and increase the loan amounts that they're able to go to be able to do going forward. So for us, it was a big challenge for me, because it's the first time there's an agricultural microfinance in Malawi that is only focusing on the youth. So I was actively working on this, trying to establish it, and doing research on it was really, really hard, because we had to workshop some of the things that have been done in other parts to be able to combine it. But we're happy that at least we've been registered with the Reserve Bank of Malawi, and we'll be able to start rolling out loans at least this coming farm season. So for the microfinance, the bigger part that we've been working on is looking at a comprehensive approach to the farmers. So as I said, I'll keep on referring back to the population growth and the land holdings, because that's one of our guiding points, because we have to make sure that we hedge against that risk going forward. And one of the biggest things that we found out as an innovation to make sure that people produce more on a smaller piece of land is that they have to be growing crops all year round. So we have one major rainfall season in Malawi, that's where most people grow, but we have a sun almost all year round, and we could use irrigation for people to be able to grow their crops. So as we were able to engage with our farmers, we found that most of them are interested in irrigation, but it's harder for them to purchase irrigation equipment because it's expensive for them to be able to do that. So one of the loan products that I was specifically working on was focusing on developing a loan product that will be customized for farmers to be able to access irrigation loan products. So we're able to work out a timeline that would work for them. So we know that at least for crops in Malawi, it takes about 3 months for them to mature and for them to sell. So instead of making the repayment schedule for a loan to be every month, we know that farmers are able to get money at least every 3 months. So our repayment schedule made it to be every 3 months. When it comes to the repayment schedule, for example, we had to make it at least longer than what that amount of loan would do for banks. So mostly banks to individual, when they give a loan to individuals in Malawi, it's about a year max, but we've made our loans to be even 3 years so that our farmers are able to pay doing that. And one of the other things that the farmers told us about was like, okay, we don't have a market though. So we're like, okay, we'll also be buying your produce, and without buying the produce, we're able to deduct the loan amount from that, and you keep the rest of the surplus that you're able to do. So these are the irrigation loan product is one of the major products that we're rolling out, and it's also the first time that someone has ever done it in Malawi, and I think the whole of Africa actually, because most of the research I was looking at is people are just linking to irrigation equipment companies, but not the microfinance giving irrigation equipment as a loan itself. So it's something that we were excited about to be launching and to be monitoring on how it goes forward. But we're also looking at other loan products that will also take for farmers as well. So we have some farmers that have a mindset that they want to be traders and to be trading some of the crops in the community. So if they produce themselves and sell, they want also to be buying from other farmers and aggregating and then trading those commodities. And for those who are giving them aggregator loans, so we'll give them about $5,000 to about $2,000 so that they can be able to get the capital and buy the produce around and then sell it at a markup to us or any other producers they can be able to buy, and then they keep the surplus while they pay back the loan. So those are some even of the loan products that we're giving. I could have like a whole talk about the microfinance itself because I'm excited about it. But if you want to hear more about it, I'm able to even talk afterwards. But that's some of the efforts that we're taking on the microfinance part. So as you see, our work, I had to start to highlight this. So our work has been getting quite a few traction from the country. So we've had ministers, the World Bank at least come visit our site. And the biggest highlight for me was when the Vice President of Malawi came to visit our site. And I was appointed to be the one to escort him the property, but also explain to him our work and everything. So it is like one of the biggest highlights of my work in Malawi because my parents, the first time my parents were even more proud of my work because they saw me on TV. On TV with the Vice President. How did he get access to it? But so he was really impressed about our work. And he put it on his social media and put the pictures on his social media account and everything. So I was a celebrity, at least for a little bit, having texts from my friends like, "Yeah, we saw you on TV." But, that's one of my problems. So I just wanted to say some of the areas of collaboration. If the people in the room or the people that that might be interested to learn more about our work or collaborate with us, or there's some arrangement that we can do. We're looking at doing even more research into the demographics that we're working with. So the youth, the communities that we're working with, we're looking at doing more research in there to understand better how we can serve the population. We're also looking for more markets. So, we have the markets in Malawi, but international markets usually are better because you can get even more better prices. So as we're looking for our farmers to be more profitable, we're able to look at those. Everything that we produce is organic. So, organic markets are something that we're looking at. We're also looking at impact investors or funders that would be interested to fund something like the microfinance I talked about, the marketing part that we're talking about. We are also looking for those connections as well. Just wanted to highlight that part as well. And then so towards the end, I also just wanted to leave you with questions as well. So like I just wanted you to think about these questions as you're going out maybe this talk as I'm wrapping up, is that is population growth a challenge or an opportunity for for an African country? And so if you're doing your work, you realize that you can't avoid any work that you're doing. The African population is growing, even the world population is growing, but more importantly in Africa, because there are more challenges that comes with population. But is this only a challenge, or are there opportunities that in your own sectors you can look at that could capitalize on this even population growth, and even as landholding sizes increasing to decrease, there are other ways in which we can explore other innovations, other kinds of technologies that we can use to make sure that the population the population is continuing to be done, and what incentives can you do in your own work to make sure that you are able to solve some of the challenges that we've been able to do. So reaching thus far, that's the end of what I prepared for you all today.
Did I mention he graduated a year ago? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Lusayo, for this brilliant presentation. And now I think we can open the floor for questions if anyone has a question. Sharif?
Yeah, I have a ton of questions.
Very
So, that's a great presentation. I think this gives us a lot of insight into not just the work you're doing, but also the significance and why it needs to be done. So again, I have a lot of questions. I'll start with 9 today. Just first of all, you mentioned that your target audience is primarily the youth. And I've been thinking, if you want to work with the youth, it has to be something very attractive, It would be nice if you could like maybe grow iPhones on the farm or something like that. But that's not possible. So first question would be, how do you make it attractive for the youth to stay? And the second part of my question is around the credit. Actually, I'll skip that question for later. The other question would be, how do you connect all these 5,000, 50,000 youth? How do you get them connected to interact and share from each other?
Yeah, those are great questions. I can start with the youth, with the last part, because the other one is kind of more deeper with what we do that. But yeah, getting them connected. So we put for the youth to join in our program, then groups of about 10 to 30 people. So these youth are in different localities, but they're also connected with a field officer who lives in their own community. So we do have some major trainings that we do. Actually, right now we are thinking maybe we could also graduate into just being a cooperative as well. So we are looking at even having a general assembly meeting where everyone comes in, even in one physical location. But usually, because these youth are in groups and there are some major trainings that we're able to do, we're able to combine a lot of the youth in these different groups together. And most importantly, also these field officers talk to each other. So if there's anything that we're introducing you, or there's anything that would want the field officers to share, they usually come to the main office where we're able to share with everyone. And these field officers now go into their own localities with the youth in the different groups. So these 5,000 youth are not alone; they are all in different kind of groups. In terms of making agriculture very attractive for the youth, that's kind of a challenge for sure. But for us, we are the youth ourselves, and almost everyone on our team, I think the audience is 31. So it's a very, very young people. But we do a lot of agribusiness training. So we want, as well, when we are telling the youth about agriculture, we make sure that we tell them they take it as a career and as a business. and so on. So we're able to highlight some of the benefits. So we have, some of the things that we mentioned is that, we put maybe an average salary for like a worker in town in the jobs that they think they're like really good. And we also see if they do well farming, how much they can be able to make. And some of those comparisons have turned out that the farmer actually makes more money than some of the jobs that they think that they could be doing in the city. So, those are some of the things that our food officers are very skilled at doing that and sharing, especially with the youth in the rural areas, but also the youth in the city. We don't only encourage physically doing farming. So in the city, we have incubation programs. So I also helped run part of what we call the High Start incubation program. So for that one, what we do is we have youth entrepreneurs that are in agriculture. We bring them together and we provide them with guidance and knowledge in terms of how they can run their business. So financial management, issues of how to set up a strategic plan, a business plan, how to register their business formally. So for the ones in the city, we focus on issues like small scale processing. So have some of our farmers are making peanut butter. So instead of you growing groundnuts in the village, you actually buy groundnuts from the farmers and process them into groundnuts, and you can sell that. We have farmers, some of the youth farmers producing yogurt, like packaging honey, and doing all those kind of stuff as well in the city, so that they don't have to go to the village and do the farming themselves, but they can even stay in the city and be able to produce those things on a smaller scale as well. So those are some of the ways.
Other questions? And I also want to recognize the people who are joining us online and make sure maybe we'll take one more question. And then if there's questions online, Harry, let's get some of those too.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about the selection criteria for being in the program. You qualify for a loan automatically if you're in the program. Is the criteria different for females since you're trying to empower them? Like there's a different age limit or something? And then you talked about long-term care of the soil since everybody's renting the soil. If they are not taking care of it, do you remove them from the program, or how are you incentivizing that?
Yeah, this is a great question. So in terms of the selection criteria, there is we don't like usually separate in terms of like, although we're focusing on gender. So the way we want to focus on gender is that we don't want to have like separate selection things, but we want to have more recruitment efforts geared even towards women, so that more women also know about our program and they're able to apply. So that has been like one thing that that has also been working well for us, is we're trying to recruit more women, but also the groups themselves having them doing trainings with them, making sure that even in the leadership positions, in the group dynamics committees, that even they have gender balance in that sense, so that when they're even accepting new members into that. So the groups usually we train the groups. We call the first training that we do is a group dynamics training. So we make sure that the group has governance, the group has a different committee. So they have a production committee, they have a running committee, so that as a group they also work well together. And the groups usually are the ones that are bringing new members on board, and they also make rules on themselves according to their area on how they can make. So when they're making rules to select on how to let people to join their group, we put those factors in place. Like, in your group, you don't have many women. How are you going to make sure that more women actually join your group? Are these criteria hindering any person of any gender or any other demographic to join in your group? And what can you do about that? So those things are tackled in the group dynamics trainings that we do. The other question is about that.
Oh, yeah. So do they automatically qualify for the loans if they're in the program, or are there different criteria? And then also, how do you incentivize care of the soil if they get removed if they don't meet the standards?
All right. Yeah. So for the loan, we have so the field officers are the ones that assess the groups. So mostly we have a basic loan, which is the input loan. So for that one, everyone is able to, as long as you're part of a case, the group has been assessed and we've given you the training and everything, you are eligible for that loan. So that's the first loan whereby you have to have inputs for you to be growing crops. So that loan is accessible to everyone. Although the amount of that loan, you are able to increase the amount of that loan as you stay longer with the crop. So for example, 1 acre of land, you get 20 kilograms of soybean. So I don't know how many of that will be in pounds. It's pounds, so it's kind of hard. But yeah, so it's 20 kilograms of soybean seed for 1 acre of land. So we know that an average size of a farmer that work with us does need at least 20 kgs of soybean to grow the basic 1 acre that they have. So everyone that is part of a program is eligible for that loan. But the longer you stay, you can request to get 40 kgs, you can request to get 120, you can request to get 200, because now we have a record with you. We have a record with group that you paid back your loan, you're able to do so. Those are some of the things that we work differently with the bank, is that we trust you first and you disapprove us. And then if you're the one that is not paying back our loans and everything, then you make yourself ineligible for a second loan. But we give them a chance at the beginning. And then if they prove to be more and more trustworthy of our loan, then they get access to more and more loans. So we get the more expensive loans are the irrigation equipment ones. And those ones are a little bit expensive. So at least someone has to be in our program for 2 years, 3 years. We have assessed them and we know they pay back the loan. We understand the area and everything. So that's kind of like the way it works for the microfinance and how we do that. In terms of the incentives for the land, we do production training. So in our production trainings, we do the best methods of taking care of the soil, but also growing the crops. So we require our members, at least because our methods have been proven to at least give more produce than the traditional methods that maybe people might not be using in our produce, because we even customize the methods to different areas, because our food officers actually live in the area. So we test out different. We have the land where we constructed our warehouse. It's a 15 acre of land. So we also experiment with different planting methods, but also different soil taking care techniques there. So we have a demonstration site, and we're able to experiment and with the different kinds of soil that we work with. We're able to recommend the right kind of training for production that we give. So for that one, if you're working with us, we give you that training, and we expect you to be able to use those kind of like land taking care of mechanisms that we use, but also the production techniques that we also advise you to do. So for you to be in our program, yeah, you have to receive that training and be able to use those as well.
Harry, did we have 1 or 2 questions online?
There's one person, so who's Constance.
Are we able to read the question?
Oh, no, they said they don't actually have any questions. They'd raise their hand, but no, there are no more
There's no
questions.
questions in the
Yes.
chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, please.
So, Lusayo, that's a beautiful model that you trust first and then they build the record. My question is, why do they trust you? And what my question really is, Lusayo and I were friends when he was an undergraduate, because I have a project in Malawi. And before you left, I said, if you can solve the problem of corruption, you'll be a hero for the whole country. And you will. How do you demonstrate that the money that people are paying you for their loans, or the money you're getting for their product or whatever, is not getting stolen?
All right. So in the beginning, like in terms of corruption, well, we're registered, like for the microfinance even is registered with the Reserve Bank of Malawi. So they do check your votes and making sure that everything that you are using is properly going to the people that you're saying you're using, and we have to make those reports. And we have we have a board as well that checks everything we do, but also the board does an audit at least twice a year for what we do. So I'm just beginning with the larger part of then also to the farmers as well. We have the lines of checking as well for that. But in terms of ourselves as well, where we also have different donors that also require us to be audited and doing doing our work. Actually, it's one of the things that has happened that we are one of the few groups. So the loan, the grant that we got for building our warehouse was a matching grant, so we had to match 30% of it, and then the government gave us 70% through the World Bank, and we are only one of the few groups that have actually been able to use that money to finish the thing and being able to account every cent that was given there to go to there. So that's why the vice president was able to come and visit and see the work that we're doing. But for the farmers, they do pay a membership fee, which is about $1. So for that one, we make sure that the records that we said that you've paid this amount of money, they're able to be verified with the farmers. And we have some farmers that are educated as well. We do release like our financials are public. So if anyone wants to access our financials, they can be able to request and they're able to get them. So it's just that our farmers, most of them are living in the rural area and the interest level is a bit low. But the biggest belief why they trust us is because also most of them join through word of mouth, because we deliver with what we say, especially on the issue of providing loans. If we say we're going to give them loans, we give them loans. If we say we're going to buy your produce, we come and we actually get the produce and they get the money for their produce on the spot. And the biggest level of trust that we have is that our field officers live in the same community. So it's not someone coming and giving them training and taking their money going away. It's someone from their community asking them, oh, this is the loan, you know, we work, they know their house, they know where they live, and they know like if anything goes wrong, the field officer, yeah, live there. So it's not like a bunch of us in the capital city going and like telling these farmers what to do. They even the supervision and the training, they learn to trust their field officer who's located in the same community. Yeah.
Well, it is 1 o'clock, and hopefully Lusayo is able to stay with us for a few minutes to answer any last questions, but I know some folks do need to move on to other engagements. Lusayo, thank you for embodying the Wisconsin idea and really bringing the work that you did at this university to the world. We're really proud to call you an alum, and thanks for a great presentation. Please join me in thank you, Lusayo. You able to stick around and do other questions? Okay.
Are you familiar with the organization that operates here in the secondary or high schools, the FFA, Future Farmers of America?
I've just heard of them, but I don't know exactly.
You should look and see, because they're a club, you know, at the high school level. And they have all these activities, which is encouraging them. I mean, they come from farm families. And the other thing that I would like to know, are you raising cattle?
Not yet. So we are not into animals yet, but it's an area that we're trying to get into, because the only problem is that, you know, we are spread out. We have a lot of farmers, and the kind of funding that we have is kind of limited. So for us to buy like one cow, it's kind of a large investment, more than what we could do for maybe growing legumes. So we're looking at, as we're growing and getting more capital, we'll be able to make those investments.
And what about the universities and colleges? How are they participating in this program?
Yeah. So
Do they give workshops or extension courses? Or?
Yeah. So we engage with the local universities. So they have an incubation hub as well. So as I said, like some of our farmers were even able to send them there, and they're able to learn from the knowledge. But even like the way we do our soil testing, the demonstration side, we're able to work with the local university in getting some of those information. But also about maybe I would say 60% of our staff comes from the local graduates of like the local university, agriculture university. So that's just even a connection that can be.